I got you. I got
Okay,
you. I
cool,
got you.
cool.
I got you. I'm on it. All right, let's get ready to rock. What's good? What's good? What's good? You tune into Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me. In effect, as always, ladies first. Porsche, what's going on, miss?
How's it going, Kill? It's so good to be back. It's been I feel like it's been a long time. So it's really nice to see you guys. Vern, West Coast Vern, I call him West Coast Vern. Nice to see you as well.
Likewise, sis, likewise.
Yeah, the crazy thing, since I've been back from LA, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, we've been on hiatus for a good 2 weeks, so it's definitely good to have everybody back. I don't know if y'all used to watch Rescue Me on FX, and they had White Sean and Black Sean. So ATL Vern, what's going on, good brother?
What's up? Yeah, ATL baby, the Hawk, Peachtree, Outcast, ATL.
I see.
And look at my screen name. I'm a hootie hoo today.
Yeah, we gotta have a way to differentiate y'all too. West Coast, Vern, what's going on, good brother?
What's up, man? Just woke up to the Clippers losing to the Lakers, so I ain't too happy about that. But we're gonna make it through.
I feel you. You already know me. Let's jump right into it. Probably about 2 weeks ago on the TL, it was a tweet going around of this cat like going through a photo album with no pictures in it, and it basically was like, this is exactly what Drake has brought to the hip hop culture, which is basically nothing. You know what I mean? So of course, anytime there's any Drake slander, I gotta share with little. So I hit Porsche up and everything like that, and so it made me think about, okay, cool, that's a discussion in itself. But even more important to me is, well, who are the people who did bring something to the hip hop culture? And it got me even thinking about the difference between the hip hop culture and the hip hop game. And I think there's a difference, but I want to open it up for the panel to kind of chop it up about. For me, the hip hop culture has always been about MCing, DJing, breaking, and MCing. I said that right. MCing, right. All right. Those four things are the culture. So probably about a year or so ago, I said something like, Puff didn't bring anything to hip hop culture. Motherfuckers lost their mind. It was 7 days of the apocalypse. I had no idea Puffy had that many stands. And it was like, oh, he brought jobs to the hood, and he did this and he did that. And you know what? That for me, that is something for the hip hop game. That to me has nothing to do with the culture. That's great that he brought jobs. But again, I was on the TL like, well, really, Russell did that. But I also understand that it's really about what age you are. If you're 35 and under, then you probably relate more with Puff than you would at my age of 46 and over relating to Russell or Andre Harrell with Uptown Records. But Porsche, do you think there's a difference between the hip hop game and the culture? And if so, what is it? Or do you think they're the same?
I definitely think hip hop culture to me is different than hip hop game by how you just explained it. To me, hip hop culture is what hip hop was like, the actual what it was founded on, which would have been the pillars that we barely talk about in 2020 anymore. Right. That only like the OGs and the old heads kind of know about, which are, like you said, MCing, breaking, graph, all like those kinds of things to me are the culture. So, I mean, it's been lost along the way. We haven't done a very good job of upholding those elements, although they're there, especially the MCing. They're there, but they're just not as highlighted as they were back when, like in I want to say late 70s to 80s, that whole kind of time period. So,
right. What about you, ATL, Vern?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between the culture and what's the other term you use?
In the game, the hip hop game.
The hip hop game. The game is the game. The game is cutthroat, no morals, no ethics to me. Just, by any means necessary, kill your mama to get a deal type situation. Whereas the culture, there are some, codes and ethics and things of that nature. So yeah, there's a difference.
All right, no doubt. What about you, Vern? LA Vern?
I'm agree with Porsche. I believe as far as the culture of hip hop, most coming up now won't even understand or make the correlation between the dancing that's in their actual videos or whatever is going on, the graffiti, the walls they're standing in front of. They don't even put it all together because it's pretty much like the hip hop game took mainly the MC from the culture and highlighted that. I mean, look, DJs is DJing on the electronic shits and calling themselves DJs, and that's definitely not part of the culture. I mean, some might say there's an evolution of, but I don't think the originals will say the same. So yeah, there's definitely a big difference of the two. and one element of the culture is being highlighted way more than the other 4 or 5. So yeah, definitely.
Right. And I think the hard part is too is that we to me they kind of took away the hip hop culture because after a while you couldn't do graph on trains anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like they did it that hip hop became too hard to even dance. You know what I mean? Because you could kind of talk about the evolution of break dancing to the scoop and scraps and the Heavy D and the Boys, but then eventually even that got played out. Like you said, Vern, one of my favorite Goody Mob songs, They Don't Dance No More, to me that just, it, so you don't, and I can't remember last time I even heard a DJ scratching on a song, you know what I mean? So really they almost literally erased 3 parts of the culture away from it. And I think the DJ kind of came down to once they got the DAT machine, it was kind of like, well, why do we even need a DJ anymore? Like I felt like once hip hop became so about money, it became about how you can cut costs. So it was almost like, God forbid you're living and you get laid off, you and wifey now got to figure out how you can cut costs. So it's like, all right, bet, do we really need this DJ? Do we really need somebody, And so it was like, oh, we got a DAT machine. Yo, screw the DJ. We just gonna let the DAT play and we'll just make it from there. So I feel like they killed off 3 of the pieces of the culture anyway. And that piece is just gone. It's one of the reasons why I love Dilated so much. And it's funny because I see more and more people really don't, being on Twitter, I see a lot of people don't rock with Dilated like that. But I mean, I love them because I think you got 2 dope MCs. Ev is always in his videos tagging something. Babu is one of the illest DJs. Rock Iriscience is dope. So that's just one of the reasons why I love them so much. It's because I feel like they still embodied it. But let's get right into it, y'all. Who are 5 people that you feel brought something to the culture or the game, whichever one you want to talk about? Porsche, who are one of the people that you feel brought something to the game and what did they bring?
I'm going to go with Big. I think I know a lot of people are like, well, Big was nothing without Puff. I think he was a lot without Puff. I think what Big brought to the culture was a component to the emceeing side, obviously. And that's honestly his flow, how smooth it was, the way he was kind of lacing words together within the beats, but making it sound so melodic in a way that wasn't as, I don't know. All I can say is it was just smooth. Everything Big sort of, even on a track like Dead Wrong, where it's not as smooth as something like One More Chance or Big Papa, there was still a smoothness about his delivery and flow that other MCs just didn't have the same way with, you know what I mean? Right. And not only that, like Big's ability to put words inside of the beats and the amount of words that he was able to sort of rhyme and make happen within the beat and still make it sound good, kind of rhyme together, all was just brilliant. It's brilliant to me.
All right, no doubt. ATL Vern, what you got for us, bro?
All right, ATL Vern's gonna go with ATL Organized Noise. What they brought to hip hop is live instrumentation along with scratching, along with the elements of the culture, but they did it in a way where they remained true to their Southern roots with the syrupy Hammond beat, organ, live instrumentation, like I said, and they were the first to put ATL on the map in the sense of it's hip hop, but we ain't trying to be like Big Brother. This is us. This is what we represent. This is what we stand for. And I would also say, to me, I'm sure I know other people did it, but they brought the Southern family atmosphere. And what I mean by that is you'd have Goody Mob, you'd have Outkast, you have all the crews in the basement, and CeeLo might give a verse for this Outkast album. He might sacrifice this song so that this can be big, so that in turn, when they get that turn up, they got a hoopla behind them or whatever. So, and I think that Southern hospitality family atmosphere is what Organized Noise brought to the game.
All right, no doubt. The other thing I think that was so dope about Organized was, to me, they're the best and still have been the best, and they're the blueprint of how to intertwine live instrumentation with sampling. You know what I mean? Like when the Roots came out, it was all like no samples. Like they were big on that. And that's one of the reasons I really didn't love Do You Want more like that. But I felt like Organized Noise was the first to do that, which then led the way for other producing crews like Justice League, you know, and the stuff that they do is literally following Organized's blueprint of doing what they did. So totally agree with you on Organized. West Coast Vern, what's up? What you got for us, good brother?
As far as what somebody added to the culture, I'm gonna attack the question a little differently, a little more direct. You say just added to a culture, meaning something that wasn't here before, but they added to it. I'm gonna say DJ Screw and the whole screwed up movement, the whole slowed down thing. That was something that wasn't here. He created it, he added it, and it's still being used today. That's my answer for the first. That's my first one is DJ Screw.
Tell me this, bro, because you know me, and one of the things I've been talking about on the timeline and telling anybody who listen is being in LA, you know, this dude Vern scooped me up with my man Ray Westlife, started calling, like I felt like I was in Boys in the Hood, you know what I mean? Like this dude was just literally making phone calls like, yo, the homie Kill out here, pull up, you know, and 420s pulled up and it was all love. But tell me this, man. One of the things I loved, and I was telling Vern this the other day on the phone, was just sitting and listening and learning more about West Coast culture. Y'all know me. That's one of my biggest holes in my game. It's not West Coast, but once you talk about DJ Screw, give me a little bit of background on that. Because I know this is the dude who slowed shit down. And then I'm not trying to disrespect it because there's somebody out there like, yo, my nigga, he did more than just slow shit down. But I'm saying out of ignorance, because I don't know, and this is why I'm asking to learn, give me a little more oomph on DJ Screw, because I know if for a lot of people, whether they made it or not, they look at him like, nigga, all he did was slow shit down. So kind of break down what the background of that slowing shit down really is.
Well, can y'all hear me? Because I can't hear you no more.
Oh, shit. Yeah, we can hear you.
Give me 1 second.
All right. Everybody else good?
Yep.
All right. Maybe you need to jump back on. So this is like 12 minutes in. Porsche, which one?
My bad. I'm good.
All right, you good?
So with the screwed up thing, I can't talk about it like I know it because I'm not producing, but I've been listening to it for a long time. And basically, dude took popular records and slowed them down. I think he added like some 808 to it or something to that nature. I'm not really sure. But I know that whole slow motion was still on beat thing is the screwed up thing that DJ Screw added. A lot of people said it was the drug influence with the promethazine, but I just watched it on Hip Hop Evolution, and that wasn't the case. It was more about how they rode their cars down there in Houston, nice and slow, when he created an environment to go along with how they, do their things on like Sunday afternoons or whatever they do down there. That's my understanding of it for the most part.
All right, no doubt. I just want to say again, not disrespecting DJ Screw. I don't need y'all on my timeline. It's quiet. I actually like it quiet right now, so I don't want no problem. Like I said, just wanted to get more information on that. The first person I got up, I'm gonna go with Rakim the God, and just the way that he kind of came in, and if folk don't know the story, the whole, he's in Marley's crib, he's doing my melody, and Marley and Shanna looking like, yo, nigga, this is slow as hell. Like you can't rap like that. Like this ain't how people rap and everything like that. Because I feel like for a lot of times when you bring something different to the game, people aren't going to understand it. People are going to be like, yo, you can't do that. Or like, we don't do it like that. So, and Rakim being able to stand his ground, being in the studio with Marley Marl, because you're talking about a relatively nobody with probably the biggest hip hop producer at the time. And you got a lot of people who may have caved and been like, damn, if Marley don't like this, let me change what I'm doing or whatever like that. So for Rakim to kind of stand his ground and say, nah, this is what I want to do. And, just coming out with my melody and everything that Rakim has done for the game. You'd be hard pressed to find an MC who doesn't look at Rakim, no matter how young or how old you are, as an influence. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about with y'all real quick about Rakim, because, I know most people agree with this about Rakim, but I want to ask a question because me and Ed were talking about this. So, for example, before I started making beats, I looked at what Primo and Pete did. It's just incredible. Like, it's almost like flying to LA. I was like, yo, there's a million buttons in this cockpit. Like, how do these pilots know what the hell they doing? Like, what the hell? And that's how I was when I saw somebody on the SP or the MP. Then eventually throughout time, I learned how to do that stuff. Now, I'm in no way saying I'm as good as Pete Rock, Primo. I'm not saying any of that. But like, oh my God, how does Pete echo horns? Then you learn how to do it. There's almost like a magician. If you go to Vegas and you watch a magic show, but you can do all those tricks yourself, you're not going to be amazed anymore. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be like, oh, I know what he's going to do, and I know how he did that. Tell me this, y'all, because here's the thing, like, and the truth be told, Rakim hasn't come out with a very dope project for at least 20 years. You know what I mean? And I know we respect him for what he's done and everything like that. But me and Ed were talking, and I was like, yo, is it that Rob fell off, or was it that the MCs that he influenced kind of learned what he was doing and then started doing it and made, dare I say, doing it better than what he was doing it? So do you guys think that? Because when we sit back and we talk about Rakim, it's like Porsche. We talk about Big. I agree with you, everything you said about Big, but here's the problem. Big is dead. You know what I mean? So when you talk about Rakim and everything he's done for the game, you know, me teaching Naomi hip hop, Nay is like, well, then why isn't he still making good music? And I'm like, God damn, Nay, that's a good question. Like, I don't know why. If this dude has changed the way everybody has, rhymes, why isn't Rakim still able to make a good project? So do you guys, well, I guess the first question is, why do you think that is? And two, do you think it's because, like I said, all the people he influenced kind of took what he did and started to do it better than him? What you think, Porsche?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think the reason why, I mean, with Rakim, I've kind of thought about that every now and then. I think what it is that like sometimes when you're a pioneer of something and when you introduce something that's sort of game changing, and what I mean by I use game loosely here because I don't want it to be confused with what you were defining earlier. What I mean is the way that things were being done, and it kind of changes because people realize like, oh shit, like that's better, or, you know, sounds great or whatever. I feel like what happens to the originator of that is they sort of, because they're the master of that, they sort of stay in that. And while everything's sort of evolving and changing, they're maybe not changing along with it. And maybe they're not kind of keeping up with the changes. So it sounds dated, or it doesn't, it's just not like it was dope for, you know, the 20 years that it was there and needed. But now down the line in, you know, 2000s and beyond, it's kind of like, well, do we still need that? Is that still like important? Is that still a game changer? Like the game's changed so much now, the culture's changed so much. So where do they sort of fall? And that's what I think is the problem with Rakim specifically, is that his albums are like, if you took any of his albums past the Eric B time that he was with, like the duos, and went back to when he was with Eric B, it would, and all was released at the exact same time, they would be brilliant albums. But because they were released at time periods where things were so different, and Rakim was still sort of, you know, still in the same way that he was, I feel like it's just not, it just doesn't sound as dope. That's what I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah. ATL, Vern, what you think?
There was a time when everybody had a horse and a buggy. And you know, if you had the strong stallion pulling your buggy, you were going faster than somebody with an old horse. And then this dude, William T. Ford, made the Model T and totally changed the way people travel. And that was dope for a long time. But imagine putting a Model T up against a Ferrari, you know, or hell, a Corvette or whatever. So I think, like you said, he was a game changer and innovator, but when he brought his style in, people took style, learned from the master and mastered the style of the master and evolved and put their sensibility. And I would just say this, you know, might not be a popular opinion. I mean, I put it to it, it's like a boxer. A hungry dude just trying to get out the ghetto, he trying to bust heads. But I mean, after you get to a certain level and you don't change your style as you get older, the game, I mean, it's gonna pass you by. It's just an evolution. That don't mean that we don't respect what you've done, but we on this now. We ain't riding horses and buggies no more. We ain't in a Model T no more. You know, we on something faster. And I think that happened to Rakim. And you know, to be great, there's a certain arrogance that you have to have. Because if you think about, you know, some of the other God level MCs, think about their later projects. Are they still on that same level as their their first project or their second project when they were in their prime? I would say no. It's because people see what you do and they worship at the altar of that and add things onto it, and it's constantly changing and constantly evolving. And if you don't change with it, no matter if you started it, you're gonna kind of be a little obsolete.
Mhm.
All right, no doubt. West Coast Vern, you being an MC, what do you think about the Rakim thing? Because I think one of the great points you bring up, if you look at, it's been a long time from Rakim, which was with Premier, great song. You know what I mean? I loved it. But if you put that up against Nas's Like, which is Premier and Nas, I mean, I know for me, I'm going with Nas's Like. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost just like, I guess, like you said, Vern, like, you're not changing with the game, but it just made me think of that. But
Hold
West
on,
Coast
Kill. You brought, because I didn't want to say Nas, but Nas made some of the most brilliant albums of all time. But we had a show about one of his albums, and you argued for 4 hours that I think you spent around in your chair. So yeah, it happens to the best of them.
Right. What do you think, West Coast Vern?
I'm agree with Atlanta Vern, man. I feel like with the Rakim situation, a lot of it has to do with not transitioning, keeping up with what's going on. Not saying that artists got to keep up with what's going on, but it is a transition because music changes often, and you got to stay in a certain space to stay relevant. Also, I think Rakim was a victim of what he did in music was unheard of at the time, and I'm not diminishing his what he's done for hip hop, but it's a thing like we kind of crowned him real early. We crowned him for being different. We definitely didn't crown him for longevity or having too many classic albums or anything like that. And another point I would like to make is like he's a victim of his audience not growing or not growing with him. Things at that time, it was just like being a kid in a candy store, like being Kevin McAllister in that big ass candy store on Home Alone, that toy store. So much was coming out that, it was hard to keep the attention, and things were different. It was innovative. A lot of times people think new is better than, what already. A lot of times we fall victim to that, like a new phone come out. You quick to get it, but the one you got might just be what you need, or the one that suits what you really, do with your phone. Same thing with your music. I don't think people grew with Rakim. And, hip hop changed. It got a lot more topic oriented, and Rakim was able to do, topic driven music, of course, but it was just a different time, and I don't think he wrote, he transitioned very well. And I don't think his audience supported him through his changes. They kind of moved on.
I agree with everything everybody's saying. I'm just wondering, like, I don't know. I guess because I'm just like, if your pen is sharp, like I don't know, but because Vern, I'm sorry, Portia. What were you gonna say?
Sorry. What I was gonna say was Rakim's pen is sharp. It's always been sharp. It'll always be sharp. He is just a sharp MC. That's how Rakim is. It's just like if Rakim wrote for someone that had a different ear, it would sound different. And I think it would be dope. All of his like albums that he has done, if those were wiped out and we never heard those, but all of those verses were given to somebody else to execute and put in as a entire album, I promise you it would have sounded completely different. And everyone would have been like, that's dope as hell. I don't think Rakim's pen is in question, but I could be wrong. I don't know. In my opinion, anyway.
Well, here's the thing. So what you're saying is Rakim then, because I've always like we were talking on a timeline earlier about MCs who can give you a dope 16 but not a whole album, or like for instance Jay Electronica. I'm not worried about this Jay Electronica album from him bar wise. I'm just worried about the beats.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not worried about the MC. I'm worried about the collaboration. But when you look at the album with It's Been a Long Time, you got Pete Rock, you got, Premier, you had Nick Wiz. I mean, so I don't, but West Coast Vern, what are you going to say?
I will say this, with the Been a Long Time album, I'm trying to make 2 points without confusing myself and you guys. With Rakim, I will put it like a parallel with like the GZA. never bastardized their art. You know, never. I mean, the closest Rakim ever went as far as trying to be accepted is when he was Dre and he was on that True Verse record. Other than that, you know, he kind of stayed in his own space. Same with the Genius. Therefore, I agree with Porsche. His pen is not in question. You can't. It's not that. We talked on the phone the other day and we brought up the Gang Starr album and how excited people got about that. A lot of Rakim's faults, I think, is timing, because if that Been a Long Time album was dropping next Friday in this climate, how everything is pretty much in this space and people are kind of supporting what they fuck with now, I think it would do a lot better than it did initially when it dropped. It just took a lot of time for things to kind of even out and people to start really going back and reaching out and supporting the shit that they love. Just like we said with the Gang Starr album, I mean, it was here for a week. People got really excited and it went away, but they got the look. And I believe if like it been a long time came out today, it would get that same kind of love. Like, oh shit, Rakim dropping. It would get the look and it would get the support it was going to get, however much support it's going to get. But it would get the look. It's just sometimes a lot of these artists are victims of the times and timing. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say.
So do y'all think GZA could make a dope album right now with dope production and people would care? Porsche, you say no. Porsche, you say no.
Man,
No.
West Coast Vern says yes. ATL Vern, what do you say?
I say this about, and it's not a bashing thing, man, but I've learned legacy artists, man, for the most part, disappoint. I mean, it's name the legacy artist that just constantly still dropping dope stuff that you want to hear and people constantly talking about.
The only person I can name, and I always say this, is Sean P. God bless the dead. Sean P. was the only MC from the 90s that I still got hyped to hear, because you'll always hear people say things like, oh, I'll listen to it. Nah, there's a big difference between listening and being hyped. Like anytime I heard Sean P. had something coming out, I was like, bet, I want to hear something from Sean P. But keep in mind, you also have to understand Sean P.'s trajectory, because he wasn't the best of his crew. You know, a lot of the MCs that we're talking about, the Rakims, you name Nas, you talk Genius, they were the best of their crews. You know what I mean? So it's almost like Sean P. got better with time. You know, I'll put Royce up there. You know, Royce is one of the few MCs who I think has gotten better, you know, but then to me, there's always an asterisk. Royce got better to me because he's sober now. You know what I mean? Like, sober Royce is doper than drunk Royce, whereas like, I guess the flip with Eminem, the pill popping Eminem was dope. I'm sorry, I'm not even supposed to say his name, but that person was better, you know, on drugs versus now that he's clean versus with Royce. So, but I get what you're saying, but I'm just wondering, you know, and maybe this just is, you know, it was just on my mind, but maybe it's just too much to go into and it's deeper.
Again,
we gotta maybe do another
sorry,
show.
these guys always fall. I just want to clarify why I said I don't think GZA would have a dope album. I think it's because naturally we will compare it to
Liquid Swords.
To Liquid Swords. And GZA is just not the same rapper anymore.
Right.
He's not the same age. He doesn't have the same life. He doesn't have the same experiences. He's just not the same. So it's impossible for him to MC and rhyme and write at that level. Is his pen going to be like lacking? No, absolutely not. I still have 100%, you know, full confidence that lyrically the GZA is going to be 100% there on the level of Liquid Swords. But is the whole album going to sound like the final product that we hear? Is it going to sound like something on Liquid Swords? I don't think so. And that's why I don't think it would be an album that people would get hype about. Would people listen to it? Absolutely, to see what it is, but it's not going to create a hype. It's not going to be exciting. And I can almost say that because we've seen it historically with our other
time and time. And I make a lot of jokes about like Frankie Beverly. Go ahead, Vern. Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm gonna disagree because I believe only thing that would knock it would be our own nostalgia. I agree with that, and production would factor in. But the way Genius does his thing, he's like a cinematic type rapper. So if he really got in his bag and delivered what he delivered with the right production, I mean, nothing's gonna top Liquid Swords, nothing's gonna top the Purple Tape. We know this, right? But do I think he can make something functional that's very enjoyable? I do. I think it could be done. But I mean, you know, the Mood Dudes pick the production thing is always the fucking, you know, the unknown. So, but I would say in theory, I think it could be done.
In theory,
Good.
yeah.
In theory, I would say in theory.
I mean,
theory. I have to agree in theory. I think the in theory part is like the wild card. Like theoretically, yes, Jizza has all of the components to make a dope album.
In theory, that way I'm not liable. In theory, see, I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. You're not liable. What we know to be true is like Nas dropped.
But you know what it is, Portia?
Nas dropped Nasir, and I mean, come on, like.
But you know what I think it is, Portia, and that's what Vern, you brought up a good point, because I'm thinking like Portia, you're saying where Jizza is in his life. I think for me, I'm saying the production, because I don't. Again, was Nas not sharp on Nasir, or was it just the beats?
I think it's a combination. I mean, here's something else that I think too. But when I say this, please, by no means am I comparing myself to any of these MCs that are legendary.
Right.
But I think people in general, forget it. Kill. There's a certain beat structure that catches your ear. You have a style. You have a preference, and it ain't gonna change. You might add a little this, a little bit to that. But I've noticed that about. I mean, you look at a Chuck D. And I'm gonna talk about him, but you look at a Chuck D. Chuck's okay, he still talk about topics now. Same topics he talked about in 85, 86, 87, or whatever. What's different? It sounds dated because Chuck is in that little vein, and to him, it's dope because I ain't gonna change who I am, blah, 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 blah. And that's cool. Be true to you. I just ain't gotta buy it. I just ain't got to listen to it. And that's why, like I was going to say, I joke about this, but I really mean it too. Frankie Beverly ain't put out an album in probably 30 years, and he doesn't have to. He could just tour off of Before I Let Go, Happy Feeling. That's the golden time of day. And it's not a knock on MCs. I ain't telling older MCs don't create, but I'm telling you, don't get offended if I ain't feeling it the same way. I'm cool with what you giving me. I mean, that's you giving us incredible work, and I ain't trying to throw you on the scrap heap. I'm just saying it ain't gonna be received like you think it is. So if you cool with it being received lukewarmly, do you?
And see, keep in mind, Vern, the only reason why I wanted to bring up Rakim was because Rakim is like what most MCs say is like the God MC. You know what I mean? So like with Chuck D or anybody else, that's different because to me, Chuck. I don't know too many people who are looking at Chuck like you're the God MC. It's almost like Jordan. You know what I mean? Like everybody is like Michael Jordan. Or then if you go a couple of years up, then it's Allen Iverson. Then you go a couple of years up, and it was Kobe. You know what I mean? Like that's why I was just wondering with Rakim, like why is it that he's the God MC? He puts out a book, everybody goes crazy. We all got to read it. You know what I mean? He's doing a book tour right now that's probably selling better than a real rap tour would. You know what I mean? Right. So. But why is it that if he's the God MC and the pen was that sharp and everybody's saying the pen is still sharp, like Poor said, if he gave these verses to somebody else, they would be great. So is that then now on us as the audience? Like now it feels like it's something personal against Rakim because you're like, Porsche, you're like, if Rakim would have gave them bars to Yao and Yao spit those bars, people will be losing their mind like Yao was the God MC.
And Yao would nail it for sure.
But the thing is that isn't there's something personal against Rakim?
I don't think so.
As the fan.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's just like we'll use Yao as an example because I think Yao's flow is incredible.
And no disrespect, Yao, because we know Yao, you write your own rhymes, so no disrespect.
Yes, no disrespect. This is Yao doing Rakim a favor and rapping his verses. That's what I'm considering. But why I'm saying Yao is because I think Yao's delivery is incredible. His flow is great. His beat selection is dope. Yao has a very good ear to the street in terms of what sounds good now and what sounds good now for a long time moving forward from now, not what sounded good back in 1986, what sounded good. Do you know what I mean? So
I got that's the perfect example because somebody hit me the other day about Jadakiss album. They was like, yo, I would get DJ Premier and Large Professor. And I was like, no, stop right there. No, I would not get Large Professor. And no, this is not 1993. This is not Illmatic. Those are not the two producers. So right when you just said that, it makes sense of what you're saying, that having your ear to the streets. Because I'm like, the fact that you said DJ Premier and Large Professor, to do beats for Jadakiss in 2020, I'm like, nah. So
no, it just doesn't,
totally,
it doesn't work. It's just a
totally get what you're saying.
It's a different landscape. That's what it is. So
That's
Totally
what it
get
is.
what
It's
you're
different. It's like your man go do a 20-year bid, and he come back out, and he still got on cross colors. You know?
Right. I know what you said.
Yeah.
As soon as sports said that, it clicked.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. All right, Porsche, what's another person who you think brought something to the culture?
I'm going to say Dapper Dan. I don't get to talk about Dapper Dan as much as I'd like to. He is an icon. He is so integral for hip hop, and we barely talk about it. But Dapper Dan, for those, I mean, everybody knows, but he brought fashion, high fashion to hip hop. So he was doing clothing for LL, for Rakim, actually, oddly enough. Jay-Z references him. So Dapper Dan, I mean, has a good sort of foot in influencing hip hop in a very good way on the fashion tip.
Right. I agree. I think one of the, if there is a fifth element of hip hop, I would definitely say it's fashion.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and you're 100% right in that. Dan played a humongous part in fashions. And let me just throw in the Shirt Kings too. If for people who don't know the Shirt Kings, real quick, let me grab this. Back in the day, these like graffiti shirts, this was like the Shirt King. So usually any rapper from like 86 to 89, 90 had the Shirt Kings too. So, and
actually, I think what the Shirt Kings did was actually take, like, this was all actually done, like graphed onto clothing and then put together. So what the Shirt Kings did was actually very, very authentic and genuine graph stuff on clothing. Dapper Dan, just as a little bit of an aside, was a little bit more higher fashion.
It was high end.
The Shirt Kings were a little more street attire, everyday attire, whereas Dapper Dan was a little bit more high couture.
And for Cash, this is like a Dapper Dan. This is what Dapper Dan was doing with the Gucci, like the Rakim, Eric B. Rakim had. I mean, Dapper was doing it to Jeeps. You would see Jeeps with the whole Louis V and the MCM joint. So
and all that,
exactly. Dope pick, Porsche. ATL, Vern, what you got?
I'm gonna merge two people into one. I'm gonna say Too Short / E40.
Okay,
nice.
The slang, business acumen. To me, even before Puff and all that, these dudes came out of their trunk long time, and they weren't. You know, you can argue whether they're the greatest lyricists or whatever. It doesn't matter. Their longevity is still going, and they brought their own originality. You know, that Bay Area, you know, Oakland style of rap, style of gangsterism, style of lyricism. You know, E40 got a million different slang words that are popular today, and so to me, I'm gonna merge them two as one. Too Short and E40 brought something to the culture as it relates to the slang, the business acumen, selling out the trunk. Like I said, because Too Short started like making tapes for Dope Boys and putting that name in. He would charge more if he name checked them in an album, and you just start doing that. And then also this making big labels bid for them, because I would say, before the social media, internet buzz or whatever, because now record labels look at you and see how many followers you got and all that kind of stuff. Well, E40 and Too Short and them, just in their area, was killing the game. So when Jive and them came to them, they already had a huge following, so they could negotiate their deals a lot better, and they wasn't getting screwed over like a lot of the people that we still see happening to them or whatever. So I'm gonna say 40 and Too Short.
Dope. Definitely dope choices. West Coast Vern, what you got, good brother?
I got Hype Williams, bringing cinematic feeling up the ante on music videos. Before Hype Williams' music videos was pretty bland. He brought a lot of creativity that still transitions and translates today. And I mean, you could tell the difference between a Busta Rhymes Hype Williams video to a Nas Hype Williams video. Two different things. Missy Hype Williams video. You understand what I mean? So what Hype Williams did with the music video elevated the culture and added to the culture because it became essential. And only the top tier could get a Hype Williams video. Everybody didn't get one. You know what I mean? It was an exclusive thing like a Primo or a Dre beat. You can look back. Everybody from them times did not get one because some of that was their whole budget. You understand? So I'm gonna say Hype Williams. And making the music video a real factor and a staple in hip hop.
Good one.
That's dope pick. I'm gonna go with, y'all know my man James Yancey, God bless the dead, James J Dilla, JD, however you know him, Pay J, whatever. I mean, I'll put a link in for my whole how Dilla changed my life breakdown, but I mean, just off top, like, yo, just the way this man changed the production game. Like, I mean, literally, like, when he came up with his offbeat drums, that was crazy. I'll never forget the first time I heard Wordplay. I was in my man Montez's Jeep on my mom's block in Philly, and like my jaw dropped, and I ran right in the crib, went to the basement, got on the ASR 10, trying to emulate what I just heard. It was incredible. You've heard the Questloves talk about. The thing to me about Dilla was so crazy is, and people may not notice, my mom is a jazz musician. Jazz musicians are probably the most bougiest musicians in the world, you know, because most of them went to school for this. You know, a lot of musicians got, you know, learn playing at school, or learn playing in the school system, or learn playing in church. Jazz musicians are a lot of ones who went to school, but Dilla actually had drummers like Quest and Chris Daddy Dave changing the way that they play their drums based off of him. Now that right there is enough for that. That's huge. Okay, so just in doing that, I've been to more jazz shows where they do a whole J Dilla set. You know, so the fact that you have jazz musicians honoring a hip hop producer is incredible to me. It's flat out incredible. His drums, his bass tones, and then for a long my knock on JD was that he could only make beats for Peace People. He could only make beats for the Howard crew. He could only do Common and Erica and Mos Def. And if you read books and burned incense, that was for you. But then when J Dilla came up, now he's doing stuff for the Wu. We talk about Vern, Southwest, South Central Vern, West Coast. We got to come up with better names. I'm confused. When you were talking about like the Purple Tape, like to me, only Build for Cuban Links 2 was also dope. It wasn't the Purple Tape, but it was also a very dope album. But a lot of that had to do with the production, because Ray ain't gonna change. We know what Ray gonna talk about. But like 3 of my favorite joints off of that is Dilla beats. You know, that was my knock on JD. Could JD do something for Wu-Tang? But that House of Flying Daggers is crazy. That joint about Old Dirty is crazy. So, you know, to whip you with a strap for Ghostface. So the fact that, because keep in mind, everybody bit JD's style. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I heard Joe Scott's, they sent me the sample at the radio station. I was like, oh man, this is dope. JD about to get that R&B money. So when I get the album and I see it's produced by A Touch of Jazz, I'm like, damn, like, oh, these niggas bit Dilla whole style. And I felt like Dilla was like, yo, fuck it, y'all can have that. I'm gonna come out with this donut shit and just fuck y'all head up even more on this side. And that's what he did. So I gotta definitely say, J Dilla, listen to Doing It. Listen to Common's Doing It. Most people don't even know that that's Rick James, Give It To Me, Baby. Like, and again, without Quest breaking down that story, I would have never put 2 and 2 together. And then if you listen to Little Brother by Black Star, it's off the Hurricane soundtrack. And what Quest was saying was Dilla would used to do was he would take Pete beats and other people's beats and redo them. And that was an interlude that was off the main ingredient that he ended up flipping and just killing for Black Star. So just 2 joints y'all can check out if you want to see just some of the genius of Dilla at hand. Porsche, give me somebody else who you think brought something to the culture.
I'm going to say Meth and Red brought the concept of unofficial, official duos.
Okay.
I often talk about this because they were never really known as a duo, but over time, just collaborating and jumping on each other's songs and then doing an album together, they sort of became that so organically. And I think that's why they do it so well. And that's why they still, I mean, they're not really doing much together still, but they're the most memorable of the unofficial. And I don't know anybody else who's done it that way, where they've just consistently kind of go together. They've done movies together, they've done albums together, they've done tracks together, they've even collaborated with pop stars together. Like, it's just it's a collaboration that is rooted in friendship, and I don't think we see enough of that in hip hop. And if we do, then I've missed it, because I don't know where else something like this has happened before. I mean, unless they were a duo on paper, signed contracts, but not the way that Meth and Red sort of did it.
Right. I think one of the dopest things about Meth and Red that people forget is they used to have this like like Ashton Kutcher punk type show. I don't know if it was on MTV or whatever, but my favorite episode is when they punked Ludacris and they gave him this horrible beat. And it's on YouTube. If people haven't seen it, go find it. They give him this horrible beat. The beat is whack. And Luda's like, I can't catch it. They're like, come on, nigga, come on, catch that shit, nigga. And like he's trying it. They are dying in the other room. And then Meth is like, yo, man, what if you ribbit like a frog in the beginning of the rap? And Ludacris is like, ribbit, like this dude is really ribbiting. Like, because I was like, yo, I don't know what brought this up, but I was saying something on the timeline about, yo, I don't know how when you're a featured artist and you get in the studio with somebody and you hear the beat and the beat is just whack. I'm just like, I guess that check must just be good enough to just be like, fuck it. And somebody posted that. So it's definitely on YouTube. Just put like Red and Meth, Ludacris joke. But yeah, Ludacris is actually ribbiting before the song. And I'm just like, I would have been like, yo, nigga, I'm not fucking riveting on no damn song. Right. But he's really riveting on this beat. And you gotta give Luda credit. Like, yo, he tried. I guess whatever that check was gonna be, Luda was like, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna earn this check. Like, I'm gonna give y'all what y'all want. But I agree with you too.
Like, here's the thing. The whole Wu-Tang Clan, who were supposed to be boys, they were a crew, they were, like pretty much living in the studio together over a very extended period of time. They all had like falling outs and fights and arguments, and no one's really talking, and some of them are talking and whatever. Meth and Red sort of just kind of transgressed all of this. They stayed close, they stayed friends, they stayed cordial, and it all is rooted in this silliness, and they're silly all the time together. And I think that's just so dope that's something to be said about that. I mean,
even if you bring up How High, or when they were on the Jamie Foxx show together. And for people who are watching who may not know, this really started in '94 when Def Jam had a promo tour called Month of the Man. And it was when Redman was dropping, and it's when Method Man was dropping. They kind of had them on tour together, and they were kind of pushing them because, I mean, at that time, they were very similar. Yeah, well, really, even before DMX, because Month of the Man.
Remember it was a Dark Man X. I think he was headlining. He was there too. You're right. You're right.
That's years later. Like this is 93, 94 before X was even out like that. But this was when they both got signed to Def Jam. And it was very similar. The big afros, nappy afros, both of them smoking weed all the time. Like you said, Porsche, I think it was something where it was kind of like, these are my people who I came up with. Like when I went to Morgan, there was a whole Philly-New York war going on. And it was like, I still was cool with New York niggas. You know what I mean? So I was still with my Philly people, but I still had people over here, and I think like maybe that's what it was. Like you're saying with Red and Meth, is like it was just friendship. Like this has nothing to do with Staten Island. This has nothing to do with nothing. I just fuck with this dude. You know what I mean?
And they made it seem like they didn't give a shit about contracts, about money, about like maybe they did. Like who knows what was going on in the background, but they kept it real together so well that the fans never saw anything like that. And to this day, they're friends and buddies and best friends. And, you see them on Instagram videos together and, this guy's going to this guy's house and they're, oh, Meth's rolling through and Red's here. And it's just dope as hell throughout the years,
I think they were a relief for each other because, you with the Wu, you got to be hard, killer. I could, you can't imagine Meth and Inspector Deck or Jizz or whoever cracking jokes and doing. They're not going to do that.
No.
Meth, and this is something that I think about too. A lot of these hard dudes that you see, whatever, but at some point they play Little League baseball. I think about somebody that I played Little League baseball with that ended up being a big gangster or whatever. Meth and Red, when they get together, they could just be kids. They ain't gotta be all this on this own. They ain't gotta be on. They could just be free. And that's why it works.
Right.
All right, good point. Vern, who you got?
Dwight Myers, Heavy D. He brought the big sexy into the game, but he also brought the everyman aspect to the game. I mean, one of Heavy D, and I don't say this about a lot of MCs, but Heavy D showed me that I could just be me. He wasn't trying to be a gangster. He wasn't trying to be the Flies or whatever. He was just Heavy D, and he got respect from the hard rocks, from the ladies, from the nerds. He was just him, and I think that's a thing that is still needed in the game. And that's why I think I love Fonte. He's just every man. You know, because more of us, like I heard Fonte say this, more people got a 9-to-5 job than are out slanging and selling drugs. So I'm gonna talk to them. And Heavy D brought that into the game, and he ushered in, you know, your bigs and you know people like that. So I want to give props to Heavy D.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. What about you, West Coast Vern?
I'm gonna give y'all a curveball, but this person is pretty transformative, or however you would say that. Completely changed the game. So it was an addition, and it changed the way things work now. So I'm gonna say Soulja Boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say that because Soulja Boy was the first one to break through on the internet completely on his own and make something happen. The first troll, all that, and pretty much the way labels go looking for people was basically based on how Soulja Boy got in. He pretty much built his own shit from the ground up, and they had to come to him because he was already popping on his own, strictly from the internet. So I have to say Soulja Boy.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. The next one I got up is I'm gonna say DJ Jazzy Jeff and Philly DJs. And the reason why I say that is because the first time I heard the Transformer scratch was the Magnificent Jazzy Jeff back in '87. Now, word on the street is Cash Money had it first. You know, people have gotten at me like, oh, gee, who did it first, Cash or Jeff? And to be honest with you, I don't know. Jeff is probably about 5 or 6 years older than me. Jeff is from West Philly. I'm from Uptown. So unless you lived in West Philly and, you know, was Jeff and Cash's ages and was at those house parties, you would never know. But I always tell people, of course, you know, New York and the 5 boroughs, they own hip hop. But when it comes to DJing, to me, can't nobody fuck with a Philly DJ. You know what I mean? Whether you're talking about Jeff, whether you're talking about Cash, whether you're talking about Tab Money, whether you're talking about DJ Miz, we've gone to New York and won the chips year after year after year back in the 80s and the early 90s when it meant something. I don't even know if they do the New Music Seminar anymore, but definitely just the Philly DJs because, you know, Cash wasn't scratching like Jeff and them was. You know, no disrespect to Jam Master Jay and Cash like that. You know, they were doing the regular diva scratch, but it was Jeff who really started bringing them Transformer scratches and, you know, really could when Will could just give Jeff 10 minutes to just get busy on his own and entertain the crowd, unlike anybody else, you know, who was at that time. So I gotta definitely say DJ Jazzy Jeff, and I want to also salute Cash Money, Tab Money, who was with Steady B at first, ended up with Kwame, and DJ Miz, who was with Fresco, out of Fresco and Miz. So definitely them right there. Porsche, you got up next.
I got Cube.
Okay.
And the reason I have Cube on my list is because I feel like Ice Cube he was like an extension of, in a way, and I say this very loosely, but a kind of an extension of like Public Enemy sort of for the West Coast. And Cube brought with him a lot of controversy, a lot of, you know, stuff that people were not saying and it was not okay to say, but he did it anyway. Starting with stuff from NWA, and then when he went solo and then came out with America's Most Wanted, and just addressed a lot of things that were going on over there in LA. And I mean, we were hearing it from the New York side, but what was going on in LA, and Cube kind of brought that to light throughout his earlier years. So I definitely think Cube is a very important component of content coming out the West, for sure.
Right. It's funny. Cube was one of mine too. For literally the exact same reasons. I felt like, me and Nate just watched Straight Outta Compton. You know, and even Nate was able to put together like, you know, the stuff like not from the movie, but from me talking about Cube and what America's Most was about, and you know, what was the second album? My brain is so
it was
Death Certificate.
Death Certificate.
Yeah.
Letting her listen to some
Which
of Death
is arguably
Certificate.
Better than America's Most Wanted, but the subject matter is a little bit different too. So
right. But even her, like,
go ahead.
What you gonna say? No, I was just gonna say that Nay even was able to kind of correlate, like, because she knows all about Chuck D. So like she kind of pieced it together, and then in the movie, she was like, well, who you know, you always talk about is the beats. Who is Ice Cube gonna get to do the beats if he left Dre? And I'm like, you know, the Bomb Squad, which was Public Enemy. I'm like, really, Dre was very heavily influenced off the Bomb Squad. So Cube was actually a genius to kind of go to the source. You know what I mean? Like, it was really like, you sound like them, so fuck it, let me just go to them and get what it is. But I'm with you on Cube, just being able to talk about the nation, just everything that was going on. Like I felt like it was the West Coast extension of, like you said, Public Enemy. So very dope choice. Definitely Cube was one of mine. What were you gonna say, Vern?
Oh, I was gonna say when she said Death Certificate was better than America's Most. That's one of the first time that the sophomore was better than the debut. I agree with her. I almost feel like Death Certificate is a precursor to Good Kid, Mad City. Got the same kind of vibe for me.
Right.
And I would say Cube, I think, is just a beneficiary of perfect timing and being a sponge, because he kind of just rolled with what was happening every time for the initial, I say, first 3 albums. When he, ran into the Nation of Islam after the riots and all that, he was just very visual as far as his writing goes. You know what I mean? And he was able to capture what was going on right when it was happening, and that made a big difference. Because, like you said, outside looking in, he was really like a reporter on ground zero at that time. So yeah, I can agree with that.
It's also really important to note that, I mean, we were hearing it from Public Enemy coming out of New York, and New York was the powerhouse of hip hop. It was the birthplace. So everyone's sort of turning to there, but this is happening. These same sort of things are happening, not just in New York. And that's what I think Cube kind of brings, is this perspective from, look, like, yeah, Public Enemy's talking about it. And yes, you guys are dealing with it over there, but this is what LA is dealing with. South Central's like,
Right.
This is what we're going through here. So we're not very different from each other anyways. Right. And then it highlights the US and the issues therein as a whole country, right? Because you're thinking
Right.
coast to coast, and everything in between must be going through kind of the same things, right? Some people just aren't kind of talking about it. So again, Cube is integral to that for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's hip hop. I mean, I know for me, when I was in LA with Vern, I was saying, conversations me and him were having, I was like, damn, I wish I would have had this conversation like with somebody in 90. Like I don't have no cousins from the West Coast, so I ain't have no cousin to chop it up with. But like what he's telling me about DJ Quick, I'm like, shit, if somebody would have told me that in 1991, I would have had a whole different ear.
See, Kill, it ain't just that album cover that you keep
right, but what I'm just saying, like, but that was it. But then talking to him, he's breaking shit down to me, and I'm like, damn, like, yo, like I missed out on stuff. So like you said with Cube, it almost felt like, and we'll get into this later, but Vern, I've always wondered this, and we kind of touched on it, how West Coast people felt, because I always felt like NWA had a very New York sound to it. Like, even though they rap like the West Coast, the beats were very Bomb Squad-ish, which is totally different than what Quick was. So I always wondered, like, how did y'all feel about cats like the Alcoholics? Because it would be like, niggas on the East would be like, oh, I fuck with the Alcoholics, but they sound East Coast. I fuck with Social Mischief.
As far as the sound initially, you got to understand, remember, everything started in the East. So initially, the early NWAs, when they got away from when Dre got away from the whole party sound, we didn't have a sound yet. We were kind of borrowing and trying to kind of playing it by ear. So yeah, initially he drew off of his influence, which would be like the Bomb Squads, the Hank Shockleys, and all them over there. And then eventually, it transitioned, and when he discovered the G-Funk stuff and stuff like that. As far as the licks, like we spoke about, man, like it was always refreshing to us because we always knew there were more than what was being presented. It's like knowing you got a dope ass player buried on your bench, but he can play. Like, we always had different kind of music going on over here too, but America took to the gangster shit because that's what hit hardest first, right? So that's what happened. But even initially, like, you look at Cypress Hill, initially everybody thought that was really like a gangster rap group, but then now what you look at them as, it was always something different. It was just presented a certain way. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's funny because even with Cypress Hill, I initially thought they was from Brooklyn because there's a Cypress Hill in Brooklyn. So when I heard those beats, it was like, oh man, these niggas from Brooklyn. But that's ill because this dude Be Real don't sound like it. But I just always wanted that. But that's another show. Vern, ATL Vern, who's somebody else you got?
Chuck D, Public Enemy. I would say there might have been some before, but I don't remember it. Talking about Black pride and nationalism. With the Bomb Squad, just crazy 8,000 different sound bites coming to you at one time, shocking your system. And Chuck, I mean, I promise you, Chuck D had me in my 11th grade then. And I had a social studies teacher who, after we finished our work, she had a little table that had all the different really black books, and talking about different people. I'm asking her, who is Joan Chesimard? Who are these different people that Chuck D is talking about in his rhymes? So he really had me going and reading Soul on Ice and different things of that nature. So Chuck D brought element to hip hop of black nationalism, but the stuff is still dope because I mean you had other MCs with that in that vein, but their music wasn't as good to me. So I would say him.
Yeah, and I want to say Chuck. I want to almost say he kind of pioneered that lane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because you had a lot of people afterwards who wanted to, try to kick it. But and even if we were just talking about it with Yo Bum Rush the Show. You don't get a lot of that on Yo Bum Rush the Show, but you get a lot of that on It Takes a Nation.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I always forget that these rappers. Chuck probably was. If I was 14, Chuck was probably like 22. If not older. You know what I mean? So this dude had, and I'm gonna get into it, knowledge itself, and he had the stuff that he wanted to say outside like an average 14-year-old. But I definitely always say Chuck, of course, is the reason I never sold drugs. But Chuck is definitely the reason I picked up a book. Like I don't read Malcolm X Speaks or the autobiography of Malcolm X without a Chuck D. So definitely for that. West Coast Vern, what you got?
I got Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin, and I'm no disrespect to the lady that started the Sugar Hill record, because she was, I think, truly the first independent pushing hip hop statistically. But for them taking it for where they took it with their independent and making a way when there was no way, and just doing their own thing. And without Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons, like what do we have? Like you take that away from this, and what do we have? Do we have anything? And I'm speaking impact. You know what I mean? And their entrepreneur spirit and the emphasis on ownership and pushing your own lane is it's like a very solid pillar in hip hop culture. Like it's like we came out the door really about ownership. So Rick and Russell.
Dope, definitely dope. The next person I got up is Nipsey Hussle. And the reason why I bring up Nipsey is because, for a lot of people that don't understand, and this was like one of my papers I wrote to graduate was about how hip hop had changed. I graduated in '96, and I was just saying how hip hop went from being a lot of people were saying, hip hop stopped a lot of violence because you had these gangs that were no longer going to fight each other, but they breakdance against each other or rap against each other. But, now this is 78, 79, but now in 96, now hip hop was being blamed for everything. Hip hop was the reason, there was crack in the neighborhoods. It was the reason why gang violence was so high. It was just so hip hop went from this thing that kind of like took away the violence from the neighborhood. And now 20 years later, it's being blamed for the violence. Just like Vern was saying with Chuck D, making me want to pick up a book and read and learn more about ourselves. I got put on to Nipsey, not through his music, but when word got to air that there was this rapper from South Central who was opening up STEM centers. You know what I mean? And it's like, that spoke to me because most people know about the work I do in the hood of the Southeast. So it was just like, wow, this cat making STEM centers, and just seeing the business mindset of not just as far as making money, but just as far as giving back to the community, which you are, when Ev and Vern had me out in Crenshaw, and I'm like, yo, this dude's store is like, it's something to see on TV. It's something totally different to be there and be like, yo, this motherfucking store is really smack dab in the middle of the hood. You know what I mean? So I definitely got to salute Nipsey for that, because that was something that, prayerfully more MCs and more athletes and more people will pick up on to, not leave the hood. Well, I get it. You got to leave, but still, invest in the hood and still bring back to the hood, and not move to Beverly Hills and then open up STEM centers in Beverly Hills, but, move to where you move, but then still come back and then still better your neighborhood like Nipsey did. So definitely got to give him a salute for that. Porsche, who's the last person you got, miss?
I got Outkast. And I say Outkast because Outkast is unapologetically embraced the South and brought it to the surface when it was not being recognized or acknowledged by any other region. And I think that it's important because they took every single aspect that was like it didn't sound anything like New York. It didn't sound anything like the West Coast. It was true Southern sounds that they brought into their music, and they pushed the envelope each and every time with each album. And not only musically, but also like fashion wise. I mean, Andre 3000 is just different every single time you see him, whether it's on an album cover, if it's in an interview, if it's in a photo shoot that he's doing for something, whatever it is, he's just always, they're both of them, Big Boi and Andre, always pushing the envelope, and that translated, their personalities translated through to their music, and they really incorporated and gave, like, you can listen to I want to say Aquemini is a perfect example. You can listen to Aquemini and it will transport you to Atlanta, like, actually, because it just doesn't sound like anywhere else in hip hop. And to me, that's something to recognize and something to appreciate, because they're the ones, they did it the best, in my opinion. They're my favorites out there. So
Portia, when you come to Atlanta, you ain't paying for no wings. We got
Atlanta,
we got you.
Atlanta is my favorite city too. So
Yeah, and the funny thing about you saying that, Portia, is when I moved to Atlanta in '97, Aquemini just came out, and it was just a totally different feeling to be in that city with that album. And literally when I tell people I didn't live in Atlanta, I lived in Decatur. Okay, I lived on Glenwood Road in Decatur. I wasn't out downtown Atlanta. I was in Glenwood Road on Decatur, and every car passing by, every car wash, every gas station, everywhere you went, every grocery store, parking lot, that album was banging. So it was a whole nother experience to actually be in the A when that album came out. So I definitely agree with you with that. Vern, who's your last one?
My last one, I'm gonna say Q-Tip.
nice.
To me, the first and the best producer rapper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's amazing how when people talk about top producers, Tip usually gets mentioned on the backside of it. But how can a group that has some of the most memorable classic hip hop songs in the world not, the producer of those songs not be mentioned? And we know the reason being because Q-Tip, being the family guy that he was like produced by Tribe, and it wasn't until later that we found out that was Tip. And Q, you schooled me, man, when you did that tribute to Q-Tip. I started listening to his freaking drums. Good Lord,
Yeah. I'm telling you, them drums, bro. Them drums. I got him over Premier, man. I got him with his drums.
Yeah, and then just the jazz samples, man, the loops. I mean, man, I ain't gonna lie. It's a couple of songs in hip hop that would make me cry just from a feel good or nostalgic. Man, Lyrics to Go, that the Minnie Riperton loop.
Minnie Riperton, yeah.
Inside My Love, man. I mean, that is just perfect. And then Q-Tip has spawned Kanye and Pharrell and other producers. So for him, hats off. And I'm gonna throw in one last one. Brad Jordan, to me, Scarface, the first, to me, gangster rapper that tapped into his emotions.
Right.
He talked about suicidal thoughts, talked about religion, he talked about everything. And who gonna check Scarface? Who gonna say anything about him? So those are my last two.
Nice.
Yeah. The funny thing is, Vern, we was just on the timeline talking last week about, cause I think I said something like Ali, what did Ali do? Or somebody brought up what did Ali do? But I think and like we talked about before, just the whole, if it would have been saying produced by Q-Tip since People's Instinctives, his name would definitely be brought up a whole lot more. You know what I mean? But I think it's like, for years, I think everyone kind of agreed that we all thought Ali would do it.
Yeah, we thought he was a producer.
So it's like I said, if we had that Men in Black moment where we could just zap it out of our minds and we knew everything said produced by Q-Tip, then yeah, Tip's name would definitely get mentioned a whole lot more. West Coast, Vern, what you got for your last one, good brother?
My last one is Queen Latifah, Flavor Unit Management.
Okay.
Man, you killing it, man.
That was something quite like out the bus of Rush Management, but she did so much, and I think she had such a roster of heavy hitters, and they were so influential also, and she managed a lot of that. I don't believe Queen Latifah is mentioned enough in a lot of circles. All Hail the Queen is a classic. I mean, I've been waiting for somebody to go back and flip that Princess of the Posse for decades. I've been waiting for somebody to do that. And then her and Shakim, the way they managed Naughty by Nature and Apache and Moni Love and et cetera, and all of them at least had a good initial run. Everybody was successful out the gate. And that's big for a woman to do that in hip hop. And, you can't overlook that because that was important. The whole crew foundation, the whole crew thing, helmed by a woman, that was very impressive. And the hits that came out of that, impactful records. You got, Naughty by Nature responsible for anthems just like the Frankie Beverly Array. You could turn on Hip Hop Array in 30, 40 years still, and it's still going to do the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Right. And then not to mention you bringing up Flavor Unit Management, we going into Living Single, and just in going into that part of the management side of it, which was crazy. I was one of the first people, because everybody talks about Will making that transition from hip hop to the movies, but you're right, nobody really ever mentions Latifah making that transition from hip hop to television, because Living Single was a very successful television show. You know what I mean? Like, but you're right. Nobody ever mentions La's name when it talks about that, or her coming and starring in real movies. Now, not doing hip hop movies.
Yeah. Quietly been winning for years. Navigated the whole LGBTQ. It's never been an issue. Her name never comes up with smut on it, and that's a lot to be said, because she's handled it all perfectly, and nobody ever brings her up. And she's very, very important. She comes from an era where she was right after Chris and them. That was a tough time, and she held it down, her and Light and all them. But look what she did compared to everybody else that was in her circle. She's still relevant today.
She leads with talent, because she leads with true talent, and same with MC Light. That's why these two are just so amazing, is because they don't lead with anything that's superficial. They are just true to who they are, and they lead with that, and it shines.
Go ahead, B.
And I just think it's funny, like when her time is up, she's gonna be remembered by. They're gonna say so much before they even get to the music, and that's like a beautiful transition. Like my daughter don't know that lady rap. She know her from TV. Like Ice Cube. Some of these kids don't know him from that other stuff. And that's not to knock their interest into it. It just shows how talented these people are. They change their own history. They rewrite it a couple of times in one lifetime, and that's a beautiful thing.
Dog, you know what my wife know her as? The chick that sang The Poetry Man. She bought that album, that jazz album.
Yeah, right.
That's a dope one, man. You killed it today.
I apologize. She got a poetry album?
No, it's a jazz album. A jazz album, and it's a song called "The Poetry Man."
I really missed that.
My wife used to kill that song.
Okay, I was like, I didn't even know. And it's funny, Vern, that West Coast Vern said that about La and what she's known for, because watching Straight Outta Compton with Nay, she like, if you could, I wish I could have videotaped when her brain put together. That's Ice Cube from Are We There Yet? And Barbershop, like. Yo, he's talking like that. Like, so it's so crazy how, like you said, another generation. My teens only know Eddie Murphy as Donkey from Shrek. They don't know Beverly Hills Cop. They don't know him as a comedian as Donkey from Shrek.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Right. But that's all they know him as. So it was crazy for Nay's face to be like, and that's Dr. Dre from my headphones. Dr. Dre was like, yeah.
Right.
And we're out here like, wait, that's Donkey is Eddie Murphy from Raw?
Right.
Murphy from Delirious?
Right. But the beautiful thing about that, like Vern said, is that's your longevity. Like most people won't be able to say that. It'll be like, oh, that's such and such. Like, yeah, that's all, sad to say, and I love him. We're just gonna know Pusha as being a dope rapper, and he'll be a dope rapper, but at the end of the day, it's not like nobody's ever gonna scratch their head. Like Pusha been in the game 20 years later, and nobody is saying, oh, you mean he used to rap about coke? Like this dude who's mayor now? Like, nah, no way in the world, so, and it's no knock on that, but it's just saying how, and I'm using movies like Straight Outta Compton to teach, and they like, look, know your worth. The thing that I loved about Straight Outta Compton, my takeaway, because people on the timeline all the time, well, my real life friends will be like, yo, you watch Men's Society with Nay? Like, it's a lot of cursing and violence. But I'm like, yo, through each scene, we're pausing it and having a conversation. Like, the first scene of Men's Society is like, boom, it's over. Okay, pause. You see what happened? This dude went in the store to get a 40 and walked out an accessory to murder. Now, no, your friends ain't no murderers, but you know who your friends who be boosting. So you better watch who you walking the mall with and who you walking out the. So each time I'm doing this, like, you know, and I tell people all the time, here's the thing, y'all. If y'all got little kids at home, trust me, they see more shit than what is in Minister Society. Trust me. I know in a parent's heart, you don't want to believe it. I'm in these hoods every day. Trust and believe.
Bro,
Watching with Naomi is like watching the after school special. Trust me.
Listen.
It really is for it. It really is.
No, I believe it. I'm just laughing because Vern's sitting there shaking his finger like, don't be telling me this.
No, because listen, I love when he go to that word, because that's complete denial. As a parent, any parent watching, you're in complete denial if you think you pulling a fast one anytime in this generation. The whole world is in their hand, 16, 17 hours a day, everything. So, and they're looking. Like the whole having a talk and all that shit is like you're doing that for. It's like you're doing it for shits and giggles at this point. You're just trying to see where they at with it because they there. They know where it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're in complete denial as a parent if you even.
And like I said, I get it. Your heart. You don't want to believe it, but like Poy said about Cube, I try to be the hood parent reporter and let y'all know, you know, what's going on out here with these kids. But with Straight Outta Compton, I was showing Nay to know your worth. Right. What I loved about Cube is that Cube knew his worth and he was able to walk away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like he said, when he got off the tour bus, and Dre was like, you really leaving? It's like, yo, bro, like, yeah, I'm leaving. Like, this money ain't right. Because Cube understood his worth, or how I was teaching her with Dre. This dude walked away with Ruthless, with nothing. You know what I mean? Like, screw it. You know, he walked away from Death Row with nothing. You know, to start Aftermath. And to me, that's all just about knowing your worth. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. Look at Doobie.
Puppy.
Dubious.
Yeah. But so and the last joint I got is I'm going with the whole 5% Nation. The whole nation. I don't really know where it started. I remember first with Rakim seeing the Move the Crowd video with the moon and the star, yeah. And then hearing Kane, you know, at the end of Ain't No Half Step and Assalamu Alaikum. I remember hearing that and not even knowing what that was. You know what I'm saying? So, but I just felt like that gave so many black men in the neighborhoods something positive to look at. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the whole Brand Nubians Wake Up video. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like blown away, like, oh shit, this is dope. You know, like the black man is God, and like, what is this? You know, I just felt like it gave something. So again, I don't know who the first person who was set that off or whatever, but just the whole gods in the earth, the whole 5%ers, the whole poor righteous teachers. I mean, at a time you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in hip hop who wasn't saying something about, you know, the 5% Nation, who didn't have Minister Farrakhan in a video or didn't have a Farrakhan speech as the intro to a song or something. So that was something that I definitely felt was brought into hip hop right there. So anybody else got any extra joints or anything like that?
I just want to say about that, man, like now that for me personally, I'm not, you know, speaking for everybody from where I'm from, but the 5% Nation thing initially for me as a listener, because, you know, we predate the internet. So, you know, listening to shit from different regions was how I got a glimpse of what was going on. And a lot of that I thought was just like the equivalent of like LA gang culture initially. It took me a minute to figure out that it had a religious component. And I thought it was just like New York slang shit too. So that is a dope addition, because once I figured out what it was, it opened my world to so much stuff. And just to add, you know, and I don't know how, I want to ask how you feel about this being on the East Coast. How did you guys feel about X-Clan making the most West Coast album ever fucking made?
My goodness. I mean, bro, they couldn't have made $1 with all them doggone P-Funk songs.
Bro, that goddamn X-Clan album, to like, that rivals the Chronic as far as sonically as West Coast, like that sound. Nobody, I always wonder, EPMD fucked around. They fucked around, right? They dabbled heavy, but it was nothing from the East Coast ever. Okay, I'm gonna fuck with you because I like to play, you know, let you know what I know. After X-Clan, I said the only thing closer to that would be fucking Slaughterhouse Master Ace when he did that shit with the sitting on Chrome. But how did y'all feel about that X-Clan, bro? Because We didn't have no idea what the fuck they was talking about. But them beats, Crip Bloods, we heard it everywhere. Everybody had that shit in the trunks. Didn't have a goddamn clue what they was talking about.
Bruh,
Yo,
man.
let me tell you something about X Clan, man. I was so in the X Clan, I was going to Black Watch meetings. They would have Black Watch meetings. I'm dead ass. It's a true story. They had a Black Watch meeting. And this is my mom's. I love my mom's to death because she would drag my little hip hop ass everywhere I wanted to go. Like she drove me to, I say, West Philly. Because, you know, they were out of Brooklyn. So when I'm heard, I don't know even how I heard they was having a Black Watch meeting in Philly. I was like, Moms, you got to drive me out West Philly. I got to go to this meeting. You know what I mean? And she drove me out there and went to the meeting. YZ, the rapper from South Jersey, was down with them for a while. The crazy thing, he lived, I used to stay in Brooklyn on South Portland and Fort Greene. He lived right across the street. But yeah, I mean, I can speak for people in Philly and the people I ran with. We loved X Clan. We loved Brother Jay. Yo, Brother Jay, what time is it? Oh my God.
Grand Verbalizer, bro. That was my freshman. Yeah, that was my freshman year soundtrack, dog. I'm at Georgia State. I'm blackity black, bro. I had a aunt, boots, you know, all of that, man, with beads.
Yes, sir.
What, you know, would you say white devil? I mean, I was yeah. We rocked it in Atlanta, man.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna ask you another question. Now, this is for me because I knew this was before the internet, but I knew after X Clan, I knew Chris dissed him on that Sex and Violence album because he was going that Cube on that one and he was going that X Clan. I think the song was called like a Throttle or some shit like that. And I was always wondering what was his problem with X Clan. It was the different in ideology, right? Because they both was pro-black as fuck. But I think it was the Pan-Africanism versus what he was talking about, right?
It might have been that, but it might have been, you know, quiet as kept.
Brooklyn Bronx.
They dipped in a lot of snow, brother.
Yeah.
And see, Vern got a better answer than me because at the end of the day, I ain't even really fuck with Sex and Violence. And it's so funny because one, the album cover was whack as fuck. We want to do a show on whack album covers. Sex and Violence is one of the wackest album covers ever. And I wasn't even really messing with Chris at that time. Like I wasn't even messing with Chris. So to be honest with you, and it's funny because I want to do a show and we'll talk about offline what it is, but I doubt I even listened to Sex and Violence more than once. There's certain albums I'm realizing like I listened to when it came out and I have never picked it up again. I have not listened to Sex and Violence probably since the first time it dropped. And so I probably didn't even know because like you said, if it's not the internet and it wasn't intertwined with the source, I probably, and especially if it wasn't a straight up and down diss, like if it wasn't like fuck X Clan, like if it was one of those old like sneak disses, like and them brothers.
It was, you know, it wasn't super direct in those times,
right.
man.
So
but
see, I probably missed it then. This probably went right over my head because, like I said, I only listened to that. Sex and Violence, I want to say, no, that wasn't Duck Down. That was something else. I think Sex and Violence was Love's Gonna Get You, and that was probably like one of the few songs I messed with on that album. I checked out really with Chris after By Any Means and didn't come back until Return of the Boom Bap. Like I basically checked out with Chris production.
Yeah, it was a time, man. I would blindly just go to the record store, bro, and just pick up shit. Cause like I said, that was how I figured it out. That's all. I don't even understand. Like I'm pretty sure if I turned it on today, I'd probably hate it. But dude, it was a fucking time where I love fucking Sadat X Wild Cowboy album. Love the shit. I don't even fucking know why, but I know I had a little fucking Mitsubishi Galan. It was a bucket, but I had speakers in the back, and I just love that album. So, you know, that's how the Sex and Violence. I had a box, man. I just would just pick up shit to listen to. So I remember that I thought it was dissing X Clan. I know he was dissing Ice Cube on there, but I thought it was dissing X Clan. That's why I asked.
Man, I wish we could have got that battled in a 90 Ice Cube, and I think he would have ate KRS personally. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Porsche, what you think? 90 Ice Cube versus a 90 KRS.
I say Cube.
I got Cube.
KRS, not wow. Ooh. I'm gonna say KRS actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
KRS.
Bro, there was a time where I held them both at this. Like I swear before God, I held them both right here.
Oh, yeah. Powerhouse.
If I had to,
I just think
throwing niggas off of stage. Chris was throwing niggas off of stages and shit, man. I'm gonna go Chris, dude.
Man,
Because
he threw PM Dawn off the stage.
But the thing is, see, this is the thing. He threw PM Dawn off the stage, but we know Cube is just a pen. That was an image. So I'm just saying.
Right. I know what you're saying, but I think,
you know what I mean?
I think pen-wise 90. Because to me, again, and I know I'm in a vast minority in this, that after By Any Means, I didn't look at KRS as sharp as I did. And keeping in mind, even though it dropped in 89, that's really a 88 KRS pen. So when I'm looking at a 90 Cube, I'm looking at a death certificate Cube against a sex and violence Chris.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm definitely giving that pen game to the 90 Cube.
I could
but
see
I'm just going against this because see, Cube ain't never hit another diss out since No Vaseline. That Westside Slaughterhouse shit was terrible.
I mean,
when he was
but
going
you know
back
what? But you said it.
That shit was terrible.
But you said it best, Vern. That at a certain point, like you said on the previous show, that you held Cube's discography against him because Cube just kept making records. If Cube would have stopped probably after The Predator and just dedicated his life to movies, we'd be talking about Cube in a whole new other way.
Yes,
but because he kept with the West Side and it just and like I think Nick brought up once that the bitching you Cube, Common didn't get Cube at his top level Cube. You know what I mean?
He got old man Cube. He got Iverson when Iverson got Jordan.
Right. So that's the thing. So I'm gonna give him.
But he got him.
He got him. But again, that 90 pin Cube, that 90 Cube pin to me is much sharper than that 90 KRS pin. So.
But I just say that because I don't know how you guys looked at it, but from my aspect, it was a time where KRS One was fucking feared. I don't know if IQ was ever feared. You know what I mean? But it was a time when KRS One was fucking feared on that mic. Cube was respected as fuck. But I don't think he's ever been feared. You know what I mean?
I would say this: if it
people
were
feared him after that No Vaseline. I think because nobody's ever done that. Nobody took out a whole crew before.
Right.
I mean, No Vaseline is probably the #1 diss record of all time in my book. Like, if I had to ever rate what's the best, that's probably the #1 because he dismantled the whole shit. And its impact because it changed trajectory. NWA wasn't the same after that record. See, that's why, when you judge a diss record, it ain't just the freshness, it's impact. 50 Cent impact on the shit he did to Ja Rule and them is bigger than the records he put out. No Vaseline changed NWA. It shook their confidence. They all admitted it, and they was never able to recover.
You know, the wild part is
shortly after.
The wild part that we're talking about Cube and KRS, and I just said Cube killed the whole crew Dolo, but so did KRS with The Bridge Is Over. So it's just funny how it is. But I think that's why we have to be very specific in the years. If you're putting the top Cube against the top Chris, then I'm gonna go with Chris. But if we're putting 90 Cube against 90 Chris, then I'm going with 90 Cube. I think that's how you'd have to say it.
And I think it shake out pretty even anyway. Go with those two, man, because it was a time where I remember the little intersection with them because Chris had a problem with America's Most Wanted, and he had a problem with a couple of things on Death Certificate that Cube sampled that was on the first Boogie Down Production album. They flipped a couple of those samples, and I remember that's where it came from. But I always thought that was going to be interesting. It didn't really never materialize. I don't think Cube ever paid no attention to it, but he didn't take the bait. But I thought that would have been pretty big.
Yeah, that would have been dope. That would
way more interesting than LL and Ice-T.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Vern, give him everything. West Coast Vern, give him everything. Where can they get at you? Follow you, download music, everything what you're working on. Give them everything, good brother.
All right, check it out, man. It's your boy Vern Hayes. You know what it is. You can catch me at Twitter at Other Side Music Group. I'm gonna say go there first, and then hit the link in the bio. It'll take you everywhere else. Currently, man, I'm working on this project called Note to Self. The buzz is building. Shout out to Big Ray. The Live and Sin video should be coming at you soon. Just did the artwork for the single, so stay tuned. And look out for my podcast, In the Know, coming soon. Bye.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. Porsche, give him everything, miss.
Just Twitter at Cherchez Porsche. I laugh because my Twitter's so boring. I don't.
I don't
really
know. I don't know if that's how I would define boring,
I
but
don't
okay.
So you're gonna follow and then they're gonna unfollow, so it's fine.
I don't really think so, but okay, Vern, give him everything. If you are in the ATL, if you are in Georgia, and you are not buying a house with my man Vern, you are losing. Like Souls and Mischief said, that's where you lost. Everybody out there, everybody out there moving to ATL to get on with Tyler Perry and to be an actor and actress. This is the man you need to be getting with, Vern. Give him all that info, good brother.
Instagram at V the Loan Closer, and on Twitter VChandler10. Appreciate the shout out, appreciate the love. This was fun. I think Vern, West Coast Vern, get the tithes and offering today, man.
Yeah. I definitely think he gets the tithes and offerings this week because he came through in the clutch with a lot of big things. Y'all know me. For the time being, it is at KILAPT5B. Free kill. Get me out of Twitter jail.
Free kill.
Prayerfully, in the next week or two, I will have the old account back. I'm now gonna just go in there. I done found these Twitter erases. I'm just gonna erase every tweet I've ever sent. So then that way there is no finding some video from 2 years ago that I tweeted out with a copyright infringement or anything like that. I'm just going to delete every tweet I've ever sent and just start clean. I would keep the Apartment 5B joint. Well, that's always going to be the burner account, but I do need these 10,000 followers to get some of the money I was making doing social media for other places. But so for now, kill Apartment 5B on Twitter, still kill 889 on Instagram. We'll make beats for food. I will check y'all next week, y'all. Good looking.
Yeah, guys.
All right. Dope show, y'all.